All right. Good afternoon, Victoria Mills.
Hello, I am Kia Frazier,
And I'm Barry Bates, all of us with Coldwell Banker Realty.
and today we are having our first official Realtor Roundtable. So, today we are going to have a great discussion, and today's topic is how we feel as far as being a part of the real estate industry and being realtors in 2024.
It's really easy. All you have to do is go get your license and put a sign in somebody's yard, and you'll sell their house, and you'll make six figures.
I wish.
Right, that would be
I
very
remember
nice.
making a post the end of last year. I want to say I was like 9 months into having my license, and I was documenting how much I had made in real estate for that 9 months. And all the months had a zero by them.
Not at the end of it.
Through the end of the year was still a zero.
Okay. I know my first year wasn't very good. I think I made $8,160 my first year.
My first year, I would say I did well only because it's when the market crashed and I was buying investment properties.
Okay.
So I made some money, but technically, I guess I really didn't because I was paying myself to work for me. So,
And one of the things that comes up a lot where agents move from brokerage to brokerage is because they are promised higher splits or different type of downstream investment opportunities. And you have to be very mindful of the type of support that you're going to receive because that makes a difference. I had a chance to sit in on a management level class when we were at Gen Blue in October of last year. And one of the things I had a chance to hear were the reasons why people go to the higher split promises but then end up returning. And support was like the item that came up over and over and over again. So be mindful of that when those promises are made and make sure that whatever brokerage you choose, that they follow through on that because your development is paramount to long-term financial gain and success. You might get short-term, but if you don't get the training and the education and keep yourself up to speed on the industry and the changes, then you'll set yourself up to fail.
Yeah, so Kia actually brought me over from a different broker. And one of the things that was just extremely helpful was just the access to people here. So, personally love Beth. She gave me her cell phone and was like, listen, I don't care what time. If it's urgent, text or call me. If not, you can email me. But just that responsiveness of, hey, I'm right here in the middle of this situation. I have a question. And that has been so beneficial. Definitely.
yeah. So, what do you feel or think about as far as people wanting to jump into this space and become realtors based off of feeling like they can just make an easy, quick kind of six-figure salary and really forgetting about the fact of the reason why we do what we do is for the clients because you're helping someone with a major investment, something that could be life-changing, which a lot of times it is. So, what are you all's thoughts on that as far as moving forward with becoming a realtor and your reasons for becoming a realtor?
I read Simon Sinek's book, What's Your Why? And you have to have your why in mind. And for me, my why was so much bigger than, I sold a house, or, I'm going to get an award, or some accolade. That doesn't really move me. What moves me is the long game of the industry and being able to put people in positions to have generational wealth. And also to educate people. I do a lot of work with the University of Cincinnati and have some exposures there where I've had a chance to have my business examined and immersed in the SWOT process, so strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and really to get exposed to what's the next generation looking for, what kind of expectations do they have. And so when I think of those things, it's the long game. And then there's so much more than just purchasing or selling a house. It's about that family that you're impacting in that moment and what that looks like for them 2, 3, 4 years later. So there's so much more to it. if you're coming in, you have to, it's imperative that you have your why intact and you know exactly what it is that means something to you here that you want to project out to the people that you serve.
Yeah, so for me, I definitely feel that what I'm most passionate about is helping people. And so for me, it was never about a dollar value. I've actually kept my daytime, full-time job to make sure that bills are paid, families taken care of, and that this isn't about that. I honestly feel like that's like my God-given purpose is to help people. It brings me joy. And I've taken people to look at homes that are $50,000. You know, I don't discriminate. If that's what's in your budget, then that's what we're going to do. So definitely should have a passion for helping people and doing what's in the best interest of them and their family, and your own personal gain as secondary.
I want to tag on something you said too. Having that purpose and knowing that it's your calling. That's so important. And I feel the exact same way. You get to a point where you know you're operating in your calling. I've worked at a couple other large companies, Fortune 50 companies in the past, but didn't really feel like that was my calling, even one that I worked in for 20 years. And now doing what I'm doing, especially specifically here at Coldwell Banker Realty, I know I'm walking in my calling, because the other thing that's we'll probably be talking about soon is those calls that we get from other brokerages wanting to pull us over. And I pretty much tell them, I'm good. I'm walking in my calling, and this company's taking care of me. God's taking care of me, but where he has placed me, I'm good.
And kind of piggybacking off of that, because I started off with a different brokerage and I struggled with leaving, and you know, I'm such a loyal person. When I get set somewhere, it's like difficult for me. And I ended up talking with Leslie, just kind of, you know, calling, and because we were at the brokerage together. And after speaking with her, and I said, okay, like this is my confirmation in knowing that it's time for me to relocate. And it was scary. And when I got here, you know, I bugged her and I'm just like, I don't even know if I should do this. But it ended up being like the best thing that has happened to me. And even though this works for the three of us and where we are, you have to find that space where you are happy with what you're doing, especially being a realtor. Don't look at, you know, just the sales and, you know, who's on top and, you know, who's producing the most. Also consider where you feel comfortable and at home, really, because you can't be happy if you're not, you know, in a place that you're comfortable. And how can you help your clients if you're somewhere where you're not happy? Because they're trusting you to help them find their happiness in their home. So, you know, I think that's something that's also very important. So,
I agree.
yeah.
On that, was I supposed to start with something else? So
We can start with something else.
what's our day-to-day like? How would you describe what your day is like?
Oh, my day to day. So I start off with doing my best. Now, I don't always do it as I should, but my day to day, I start off with prayer, meditation, and reading. So my son has moved out. I'm almost empty nester. So I actually turned his room into like my prayer zen room.
Okay.
So that's where I go to start my day. And then from there, I look at what's on the market. And, well, first I have to get my daughter off and tell her bye and I love you. But
And you're next.
right. So, but then from there, I start my day with, you know, being a realtor and contacting people and connecting and seeing what's on the market and touching those that I've worked with, as well as family and friends. It's kind of a reminder and saying, hey, don't forget, you know, this is what I do. Because, you know, they'll forget and they'll say, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You are in real estate. Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty much how I start my day.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I shared, I have a full-time job. So that typically starts with meetings first thing in the morning. And Kia knows, she'll text like, hey, do you have a minute? I'm like, yeah, let me finish this meeting. So definitely, time management has been very important. And I try to, on my lunch break on my regular job, I'm then catching up on real estate emails, reaching out to clients. Hey, do you have this? Where are we at? Are we clear to close? We'll run some searches. Recently got licensed in Kentucky, so now trying to double back to other clients that I may have referred to someone else to share, like, hey, now we can assist you in Kentucky as well. But honestly, it doesn't stop. I was in meetings yesterday when Kia texts like, hey, someone wants to see something at 6. And honestly, when I get off my work, I just want to go straight home. I want to go home. I want to eat. I want to relax. But it's like, all right, well, let me switch a couple things around and accommodate. So it's definitely not your typical 8 to 5, 9 to 6. I've gotten up really early on some Saturday and Sunday mornings. And, or like juggling family activities and then stopping to run and do a couple of showings and then, come back. So you definitely have to be willing to work with everyone's schedules. Yeah.
I know for me, several days a week start off with either hot yoga or I'll start off with going to my personal trainer, and that kind of gets me level because I go early, and I never used to be an early morning person. For a long time, I never was a morning person. I would have preferred to go work out at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Oh.
That has shifted just over the years. Well, as the kids kind of got out or got old enough to handle themselves, because there used to be a time I would make sure they were in bed, and then at like 8:45, I would go to the Y to go swimming. From like 9 till 9:45 to swim laps. So it's that whole evolution. But when I get those mornings where I started off with either some type of fitness, it puts me in the right kind of mindset. And then there was a phrase I learned in my corporate career, tackle the big frog. Take that on the first thing in the morning. So whatever the toughest thing that you're going to have to deal with that day, knock it out first thing and get that out of the way so you don't have that cloud following you all day. And what I found is that just really frees up my mind and just gives me more capacity to do more for people. I also will start reaching out, and I kind of start like about a little bit before 8 with text messages, and there's sometimes I'll schedule text messages to go out so that those conversations are kind of already started, because by the time I get up in the morning, my mind's moved forward to another place. So it gives me time to kind of capture that, and I try to hit a certain number of people each day. And then I've also moved some of those activities to the later part of the day because I just have had better success with getting voice to voice. I don't like just leaving a message or sending a message saying, I got my 5, or I got my 7, or I got my 10. There's a desire to have that warm contact, that conversation. So other things I do in the mornings, like I said, anything dealing with the deal specific, like you talked about during a specific transaction, if something's going on that needs to be handled or addressed, getting on top of that first thing in the mornings as well.
Yeah. It's interesting because naturally I am very reserved. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm not a people person. I love people, but I'm not the most sociable person. And so I remember when starting with all of this and they're like, hey, you should try to call at least X amount of people. I'm like, I'm not calling people. Like, they need to call me, right? So it has been an adjustment to just get outside of my box of how I comfortably or just naturally am. Normally if I text someone and they don't respond, then I may never text again, right? But I find myself like, hey, it's me again.
Right.
How's it going? Can I help? And then I'm like scheduling an email as well. And so, it's interesting because you're trying to help other people, but I find you're having to like coach them more than what they may like initiate on their own, and they just kind of rely on you. I had one client that was like, hey, did my CPA tell you if he's done with my taxes? And I'm like, did you call him?
Right.
You know, so it's interesting the level of trust that people put in you to handle all of their affairs in this process.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I think that says a lot when someone actually trusts you with personal information that a lot of us would not want to share with someone we really don't know. And so it really speaks volumes when someone feels that they're on a level with you to where you have actually gained their trust. You know, that's so important in this industry and in this business, is the person that you're working with, the client, you know, they end up becoming friends or a part of your family. And the most important thing is for them to be able to trust you. Right. So, you know, it's more than just trying, like you said earlier, trying to get, you know, the sale and kind of closing them out, but also making sure that they are taken care of even after all the paperwork is signed. So, you know, a lot of times you have people that forget that. Like, they want to know that you care.
Right.
So, yeah.
The trust factor is huge. I have a listing that I had. We sold. This one here was in North Avondale, and client was widowed. And I know my wife said, "Are you going over there again?" I was like, "I got to make sure it's good. You know, contractors coming." And, you know, you learn that you have to, like, be there for people in those moments when they, especially when we're dealing with vulnerable portions of the population. I feel like it's our responsibility to do more, to do extra. Because I work with flips and I work with contractors frequently. So the value that I added to the conversation was, hey, if I'm going to come over, so that when you get the estimate, if it's not aligned, you've got an advocate, somebody can help push back with you. Or if somebody comes in and they see a woman or someone who's vulnerable, that they feel like, oh, this is a great chance to take advantage of this person. Really get a chance to, like, no, that's not. Ask questions, and we just get to ask those few questions that just make them stop and think just for a moment.
Right.
Like, no, maybe I shouldn't. Or somebody elderly. I mean, I'm trying to think. Let's see, 72 or 74 is the oldest client that I've ever had, and it's personal. And even when I work with younger clients, I had one where when I did our buyer consultation, I talked about, like, you know, I'm going to treat this like you're my kid. And they reminded me of that when we were out looking at houses. They said, hey, remember you said you're going to treat me like I was your daughter? I was like, I've got your back. And so there's so many things that people don't know about the industry and the processes and the different partners that are involved, that it's so important that we provide that expertise. And I know you two do it all the time.
Yes.
No, just as far as like the trust of, you know, I've even had some showings with very expensive homes, and they'll say, hey, you know, I got the quote back and I saw it's this, this, and this, and this. And, you know, you could take the stance of, hey, I just really want you to buy this expensive house. Or it's, hey, I think you should really look at this information and you should consider this. And, you know, this family I was working with, the wife was a doctor. Very crazy schedule. They, like, their schedules were crazy with the small kids, and she may not have had a job if she got into this fellowship. And as much as I wanted to sell this home, I literally said, well, okay, you said you won't know if your wife has this job for another month. I think we should wait a month, because I would feel terrible if you get in this house and a month from now she doesn't get the job. Well, she didn't get the job. Wow. And so then it puts her back into, I believe, like a fellowship program where you're essentially working for free.
Oh, wow.
And I must have showed them like 30 homes, no lie, at least 30 homes. And I wanted to sell them a house. But I'm like, you want people to trust that you are looking out, in their best interest. And when the husband last connected with me a few months back, he was just like, I really appreciate you just telling us to stop, take a breath, and think this through, because we're actually now having to relocate out of Cincinnati altogether. They would have had to sell, just close, turn around and sell, because when you're in a fellowship, they tell you where to go. Wow. You don't get to choose.
Okay.
And again, I wanted to sell them. But, when people are just caught up in the emotions, like being able to level set and say, hey, let's talk about this. And is this what you should really do? Like, letting them make that decision. So.
But with that being said, with you making that decision to actually tell them that, and for them to come back and say they trust you and thank you for that, you just never know what can come out of that. And just even keeping in touch and connection with them, you never know who in their fellowship program here that may still need help and assistance with the home. So it's kind of like always staying in touch and connected with those that you have helped, whether they have purchased or not, because you never know who they may send your way. So, that's always someone that's good to add to your sphere. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah, hopefully they send me somebody.
But it just like garners your reputation. And as someone of ethics, of a standard. And I think that's something that's missing in the industry. There are times that people who've gotten in because they thought it was going to be easy, and they don't have the standards. And you immediately get to find that out once you get under contract and you have that initial conversation with that agent. And you can tell right off the rip if that's going to be a good 30 days or if it's going to be a long 30 days. It's very evident in the language they use, in any kind of innuendos at shortcutting something, or
let's not forget even the communication, like being able to get them to even text you back.
Yes, just little professional courtesies, returning calls promptly, or text messages promptly, or emails promptly, or notifying everybody, hey, we have an issue. Let's put our heads together on this, because when they try to go back door and solve it alone, and then it blows up, and then it's been 5 days down the road, and then you come to me then, and it's worse than it was before, then that hurts everybody.
Right.
If you have two families of four, you just knocked out potentially 8 people from being able to move on to their best life and to be in position to have that happiness. And so it's all about collaboration. We're not on opposite sides. I'm not putting my helmet on, you putting your helmet on with my blue jersey and your red jersey, and we're getting ready to go at it. It's not that. I mean, it's a collaboration, and we have to take that kind of energy and that kind of approach and put it together to make it work. I had a great experience in a deal that's currently under contract where there was a air conditioning unit that wasn't working properly, and the agent actually went over because the seller didn't want to replace it. And the agent actually went over and found there were a couple of things that weren't done to it before when the inspector tested it. And it actually worked. Sent me a video of it. I shared it with my client. Client's like, thumbs up, let's go. And problem solving.
Right.
And he and I have been in touch throughout, all the way. And I've done some things on my end to make it better for the entire deal, and for his client, and for mine, and for him. I mean, and it's just been good. You can tell when you're going to have that kind of experience, like I said, right out the gate.
Yeah, the communication is definitely important. So I remember calling Kia one day. It was an investor client, submitted an offer. The agent calls me, and he's like, hey, got your offer. We're accepting it. I'm sending it to my client right now. You'll have it back. And I preemptively, share with my client, like, hey, just had a call. And then I wake up, and it's in contract with somebody else. And I'm like,
yes,
wait a minute, what? And so definitely a lesson, learned for me of, listen, regardless of what the agent tells you, it means nothing until you have that signed, paperwork back. But, I think a lot of times you just think that people operate the way that you do, So if I call and say, hey, this is exactly what we're asking for, she signed it, I'll have it back to you, that's that. It's
Right.
not going to be something different in the morning. So there's definitely been some lessons learned, for me, with the communication and how things should be handled, appropriately.
Another thing too is that clients don't really get to see is that relational component. So like when we're behind the scenes, when they place an offer, they don't really get to see how we advocate for them, how we build relationship with that other agent, how we sell their offer, how we bring other partners in there in the deal to kind of help make their offer stand strong and look good. Because there's some that will, I changed my mind, or oh, I was wondering, and it tarnishes our relationship because it makes us look like we have wishy-washy clients. So, Gen Pop, talking to you, please, when you are 100% sure about a property, that's when you should place your offer. Don't ever feel pressured to. Do it at your own accord, especially as we're in these next like 3 months where things are going to be going in multiple offers and short deadlines to get offers submitted and replies and counters, and just, I think one of you said earlier, settle down, let your mind clear, make sure you're firm, because we're advocating for you hard. And that agent that has 6 or 7 offers, there's likely 6 or 7 agents calling, selling their clients. And that's what we're doing for you. We're selling your offer and your financing and how strong of a buyer you are and how excited you are about this home and the plans that you have and those kind of just some of the intangible things to help position you to be able to win over everybody else.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, because that is important. And we do a lot behind in the background that we don't really put on our clients, and we don't let them know. We just handle it and we take care of it. I mean, there's some times where you're communicating with the agent and you may be up at 12 o'clock because you both are like, okay, so my client agreed. All right, I'm getting it over to you, and you're just making sure that you get all that documentation and that paperwork in place. So like Barry said, make sure you are 100% sure, because the last thing we want to do when that agent is waiting up at midnight for a contract is say, my client changed their mind.
Right.
Gotcha.
So, it's no pressure. And that is why we're here, to answer all of your questions, to give you the information that you need, to investigate. If we don't know, we will do our due diligence to make sure that we find you the answer. So, that's it for me. You got anything?
No,
Right. Okay.
it.
Well, we want to say thank you so much for listening to our first Realtor Roundtable. We want to thank Barry Bates for coming in and being our special guest for today. And we look forward to doing this with you all again soon.
All right.